Hello there. You may be asking yourself, how did it take so long to make this video? You may also be asking, who are you and why should I care? Both valid questions, but before I answer them, waffle? The honest answer is, all the way back in March of this year, me and my friends started to get really into Yu-Gi-Oh! And we trained to go to the Team YCS Las Vegas that happened all the way back in March. We lost immediately, and after a little bit more time, I ended up missing out on the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders, and that did get me a little bummed about missing out on those, because I was pretty excited for the new console. And then a little bit more time went by, and I finally realized, oh yeah, I need to make that Sonic 2 video.
If you were to ask what my comfort series in general would be, it is undoubtedly the Sonic franchise, but I wouldn't have gone so far as to say Sonic 2 specifically. This entry in the franchise has received a ton of praise over the years, and is often considered the peak of the series. For many years, it was stuck in the same category as the first game in my head. It was a 2D game. A 2D game that I sucked at growing up, therefore game bad. But as time passed, my disdain waned and eventually turned into enjoyment. So today I want to break down a bit of what I find this game does so well, to try and understand it a bit more and see why people truly love Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It all started back in 1991, where a few months after the release of the original game, the green light was given to start the development on a sequel. However, the first pitch to create the sequel was in September, and the idea was to have it ready for the 1992 holiday season. And at first, Sega hesitated to create a new Sonic game, thinking it was too soon for a sequel, but with the massive success of the original, they quickly doubled back and wanted Sonic 2 to be created. However, because of Sega's initial wariness, they left the developers 9 months to make the game, and after the release of the original game, lead programmer Yuji Naka had quit and wanted to move on from Sega, but was persuaded by Mark Cerny to join its recently created Sega Technical Institute based out of the United States. Somehow, despite everything, all the hard work and passion poured into crafting this experience bled through on the other side of it all. Everything feels better, the goal is still the same, reach the end of the level by continuing to the right of the screen, but the sluggish acceleration of the original has been solved with the iconic spin dash. Levels are more expansive, not nearly as many are easily beaten within less than a minute, and they allow you to push the pace more instead of handicapping you with slow-moving geometry. Zones are also only 2 acts instead of 3, allowing for a greater variety in scenery that is rapidly changing from one fantastical location to the next. The whiplash of fun from one stage to the next of the first game is gone for the most part. There is no up and downs, it's only up. At least for me personally, until we get to the end and then it goes way the f down. Like, what happened here? I mean, we started off so beautifully in Emerald Hill, which not only takes inspiration from Green Hill Zone in name, but also in aesthetics, with the green grass and orange checker patterns that are not as prominent but still visible, multiple paths to take, and plenty of item boxes to be found. It is a very relaxing run through. At no point do I ever feel in danger in this zone. The enemies don't present much threat here. There are hardly any pits, death traps, or even spikes. It lets you explore and work with the single greatest innovation for a sequel ever made, the spin dash. Now, I might be glazing this a bit too much, but you're never going to convince me that introducing an immediate way to gain speed in a Sonic game is not top 3 best game mechanics of all time. How this never came up for the first game, I have no idea, but I'm glad it's here and will cherish it forever, because if I had to play another Sonic game without it, I mean, I don't really know what I would do, but I would rather drive off a cliff, that's for sure. After getting a little time to get your bearings, we move on to the filter zone of all filter zones for 6-year-olds, Chemical Plant. This is a total polar opposite second zone than Marble Zone was. That would be because it's actually good. It really does remind me of a roller coaster at points though. Multiple times throughout the zone, you can hold down on the analog stick, then sit back and watch Sonic damn near outrun the screen. Zooming around like this as a kid was always exhilarating, but it would all come crashing down to the dreaded climb that I would inevitably drown in. Now just look back and laugh at my younger self, like the biggest problem in your life was you couldn't make it out of here, and now I can just do it without even letting the water catch up. But realistically, this is the first difficulty hurdle in the game. The game really just goes, listen, if you can't time a couple of jumps, then you're not going to be able to beat this game, get better. I'm sure this is an ice cold take, but Aquatic Ruin is likely the best water level in 2D Sonic because of how easy it is to stay on the top path and avoid the water. But man, God forbid you end up on the lower path, because you're about to run into some straight... If it weren't for the spin dash, I'd lose my mind down here. These blocks that fall down can insta-kill you with no hesitation, and sometimes it's hard to even tell that's what happened. Also, these fly things, they're called wisps, can suck it. After that, we got Casino Night, which has gone on to become the basis as its own iconic thing for casino levels to show up in later games. If you can reach this zone, you could beat the game with no problem, I feel. The slot machines let you stack up on lives so easily, and then at that point you have so many continues to beat the game with as well. The first couple of times I actually made it here, it felt like the difficulty was like, where do I go? It doesn't feel like just going right actually naturally progresses me in the same way that it does in all the other stages so far. A lot of it probably just has to do with the fact that everything looks the same, which I mean, yeah, no, duh, it's a level. Of course, everything's going to aesthetically look similar, but I'm talking you see the same vertical shafts with the slots and the flippers over and over and over again. The next up is Hilltop Zone, and
I mean, seriously, who gets asked what their favorite Sonic level is and goes, dude, oh, it's gotta be Hilltop?
it's very inoffensive. It's pretty much just a straight shot, and there's hardly any threats throughout Acts 1 and 2. There's a couple times you have to outrun some lava, but the platforming is way easier than even Chemical Plant's climb up. I mean, hey, the seesaws come back from Starlight Zone, so I mean, that's something. To be honest, I'm really struggling to put down any thoughts on this zone, because it really is just mediocre in my head. It doesn't pull much out of me, either positively or negatively. Now, Mystic Cave? S tier. Next. Oil! Oh shit! Go back. I love the aesthetic of Mystic Cave. The purple amethyst-like stones in the background, the vines growing over everything in sight. You even hang down from them to discover new paths to take, whether they drop you down to continue on, or open something entirely new by lowering a platform. The place is a lot slower than previous zones, but you're still in control of everything that's happening, so it doesn't feel like a pace breaker. The insta-kills can be a bit ridiculous. If I had to guess, this is probably some weird collision detection issue, or some other jargon I'm not actually smart enough to explain, but hope I get right from context clues throughout the years. Hey, oil ocean. Listen, it can be a fun time, slipping and sliding along the ramps, jumping from one platform launched up in the air to the next, to getting shot out of cannons. But what really ruins it for me are these seahorses. I swear they just went to Google and typed in free aimbot hacks and downloaded the first link that they saw. Bro, they don't miss. I swear, they're not even on the screen yet before a pellet is coming my way, ready to ruin my day. And since this is the second to last full zone, I guess the developer decided that now is the time to ramp up the difficulty and decided to throw spikes everywhere. Every time I jump, I'm either landing on spikes or right before another enemy pops out of nowhere. It's not to the point where I find myself dying to them and having to start over. There are plenty of rings scattered throughout the zone to keep yourself alive. Also, I can't ignore these any longer. The Eggman boss fights. They are pathetically easy, but I can't even hate on them. Every single encounter with him is just so sorry. You can get a move on again in like 10 seconds. Just like the original, it takes 8 hits to beat Robotnik's contraptions, and in multiple of these like Chemical Plant and Oil Ocean, you can pretty much get every hit in on one cycle, if not all of them. And honestly, I think I prefer it this way, because at this point, I've seen the other side of things in Sonic Superstars. It would butcher the replayability of this game if each boss was a minimum 1 to 2 minute encounter, because while I mentioned the levels are longer, they're still 2.5 minutes on the longer side. Metropolis. My mama always said, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything. But clearly she never played this piece of shit, home of the 3 most annoying enemies in the entire game all at once. The internet has spewed plenty of hate and vitriol at the slicers over the years, and don't get me wrong, they infuriate me just as much as the next guy. Always waiting at the most annoying angle and striking the most opportune time with speeds near unreactable. I bet they play FPS games just right in the corner, just wait for you to walk by and shoot you in the back. But with so much energy sent their way, we have all seemed to gloss over how awful the Asterons and Shellcrackers are. The Shellcrackers are the same category of fun to deal with as the Slicers are, perfectly placed and primed to strike at a moment's notice. At times, I think they're worse, because at least when the Slicers fling their projectile, they're done. They can't get it back, it's just sitting there waiting for you, begging for mercy. Don't give it to them, but that's what they do. But the Shellcracker's arm will retract, and it will retract right in time to the exact spot you were about to land on to kill it, making you take damage instead. Now the Asterons. Not one person chimed in during development to go, hey, maybe these guys shouldn't be able to shoot through walls? Let me find out it was going the other way around. I'm going to be slamming someone through a table like it's Monday Night Raw. Most of the time you run into them is when you're on these slow-moving gears that take forever to start and stop, so by the time you see them, they're going to be raining down hellfire on you without much you can do. All 3 of these emphasize the biggest issue I have in the 2D Sonic games that I brought up in my previous video about the first game, the beginner traps. I don't feel like I got better at the game because I can now avoid the absolute worst of them some of the time because I got fed up with them and just don't want to deal with them. But the part that makes all of this bearable is the soundtrack. I need to bring this up now because I feel like I'm getting a little too negative. I do love this game, and the OST honestly might be hard carrying a little. So many iconic things that have stood the test of time. Emerald Hill, Chemical Plant, Casino Night, Mystic Cave, Metropolis Zone itself. Oh my god, it goes hard. If you were putting together a top 5 for the Genesis era Sonic music, you would have to at least bring these up in the conversation before deciding anything too concrete. Despite the fact that I have been going to level and trying to at least give some attention to each one, I cannot stress how little I care for Sky Chase. It exists, Tails gets his moment, yippee, woohoo, another auto-scroller in a Sonic game we didn't learn from Marble Zone, apparently I guess fully the first time, yay. Oh right, speaking of Tails. Well, this was the first introduction for the kid. In the game though, he really isn't there much, he just follows you around and is mirroring your movements. If you ever outpace him and he ends up off screen, he'll catch up using his tails whenever you slow down enough. And he's liable to get you killed during boss fights, I swear. He's trying. Last but not least, Wing Fortress. Oh my god, this music's horrible! I know I just said that the music in this game was great, and it is, except for this muddy, pathetic piece of garbage. Why do these exhaust flames not actually hurt you? All the time, I feel like I can't make this jump because otherwise I'm gonna take damage from this, but it's apparently not an issue. And now I don't know whether I should be upset or relieved. Overall though, I think this stage is passable. Kinda sucks that the last level is just mediocre, but I seriously can't express how much of that is simply because of the music itself. At the very least, Eggman puts up a good fight in this stage. It's the same pattern as all the previous attempts. There's a thing up top, you gotta hit it 8 times, but at least Tails can't fuck this one up and kill you. After defeating the boss in Wing Fortress Zone, Robotnik starts to retreat, but Sonic will give chase and hop onto the rocket ship that Robotnik escaped to. Which then brings us to the Death Egg. Once you're here, at this point, you have no choice but to square up. You're not given any rings, you're thrown into 2 back-to-back boss fights. The first being a robotic copy of Sonic himself, which has a fairly simplistic pattern that you can get down pretty quickly, and then next is the Death Egg robot itself. This thing is menacing, at least theatrically. And at this point, I have played this game enough. I know I can beat this. I am just going to take my time and let Robotnik take himself out essentially by being slow and getting in my hits where I can. And after delivering the final boot to the bucket of bolts, the Death Egg starts to self-destruct, and that's when Sonic rushes out and Tails comes riding in on the tornado to save him. See, this moment for me is more kind of like why I felt like we didn't really need Sky Chase earlier, because like if Tails is gonna have his moment, it's gonna be right here. And this one scene just makes everything so worth it. Hold on, I'm sorry, I don't know if my heart can take it. I am just now finding out in real time of writing the script that the OST for this moment is called Sweet Dreams. This game is so good. This may be the most replayable game in the series, if not one of the most replayable games of all time. Outside of general procrastination and a fear that whatever I create will never be good enough, every time I would take a small break from making this video, it was another excuse to go back and play it all over again under the guise of refreshing myself on what I wanted to talk about. And every single time I would play it all the way through to completion. It's strange to think that I've played this game throughout my life since I was a child, off and on for over 20 years now, and only recently did I really fall in love with it. Now beating it roughly 10 times in the span of a couple months. Everything that I've complained about in the past few minutes means nothing in the face of all the great parts about this game. No matter how bad my day has been, if I can turn on Sonic 2, I can have a smile on my face. Even when I had no one to play with when I was younger, I would still load up the 2-player mode and play through the level as player 1 and stop right before the finish so I could go through it again as player 2. And that was how I experienced some of the later levels like Casino Night because I wasn't good enough to get that far. This game just feels right in my hands. Now I'm not a speedrunner and I don't expect to be blown away by my gameplay or anything, but it's all so natural. I have routes that I like to take and will do so on autopilot. I don't have to think about certain hidden items, I just grab them. I know where to position myself in the bonus stages to get the necessary ring count. These are so much easier to get to than previously. You still have to obtain 50 rings, but instead of having one shot at the end of the stage, you will need to find one of the plentiful checkpoint posts littered throughout the level you're in and hop through the Ring of Stars afterwards. You'll be transported to what has been affectionately named, also because that's what it is, the half pipe. It starts with setting a ring count you need to get by moving around and collecting rings while avoiding the bombs that come. It seems simple, but you can't see that far ahead, so a lot of this comes down to memorization of where to be to get the most rings. I don't have much of an issue with these levels, because the main game itself is so replayable and the stages themselves are not hard to get to. You can easily retry them over and over again if you fail. Plus, they're not that long either. And I noticed for the most part, if a stage is turning, be on the side of the wall that you can actually see. It was surprising to see how much that simple bit alone helped. After completing each special stage, you will obtain a Chaos Emerald. Get all 7 and you unlock Super Sonic. Once again, get 50 rings in a stage, give it a little hop, skip, and a jump, and then transform into the being once locked away in a dormant slumber. And once again, shout out Yuji Naka for coming up with the idea that Sonic the Hedgehog needs to become a Super Saiyan because this rocks. At this point, you can simply ignore everything in your path. Sonic is faster, can jump higher, and is more importantly, invincible. The only thing you aren't protected by is being crushed. Sadly, it doesn't last forever, as your ring counter is constantly ticking down once transforming, but if you pick up more afterwards, they'll add to your total, allowing you to stay super longer. I don't know if I can name 5 things more cathartic than being able to turn into Supersonic for the first time and blitz through enemies that would give you headaches beforehand. There is no need to think, hold right, and I think this is just how I always wanted to play the game as a kid, like a literal cheat code. The worst part about the special stages though is if you are playing the game as both Sonic and Tails together. It's just like the main game where he follows your movements, but he's more delayed than the time it takes from whenever you're dodging to reach him, so he's constantly getting blown up and dropping rings all over the place, and I swear I'm always missing the amount by like 2 whenever I'm using him. Although that isn't an issue if you play as just Sonic or just Tails, which you can do from the options menu. If you choose Sonic only, then it's the exact same as the normal adventure, except you don't have Tails following you. If you choose Tails though, you'll actually be able to fly around. You can get a lot of height from him, and he lasts a surprisingly long amount of time in the air before falling down. He can also swim, which automatically makes him the better character in my head, and I mean, dude, come on, it's a little doggy paddle. It's the cutest thing I've ever seen. If you hate Tails, then I hate you. I mean, he was the one that invented the spin dash too, based off the original American manual for Sonic 2. And for that simple fact alone, he's the single greatest character addition to the franchise. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, where I rehashed how awesome the spin dash is for the 80th time. I can't get enough of it though, its utility is off the charts. There's not a single point in this game where I can think of it being a bad idea to spin dash. Okay, well I guess there's this, but that doesn't count because I said so. I seriously don't think I can recommend this game enough to someone who has never played it before. It easily cracks into any list about best games ever, or even games you gotta play at least once before you can call yourself a real gamer or whatever type of conversations. It's gotten countless re-releases over the years, so it's become one of the most accessible games of all time too. That was how I first played it, back on the Mega Collection Plus for the original Xbox.
I mean, it's hard to imagine that all of that was almost 20 years ago at this point. I can imagine that little TV playing this in my room still. It's hard to imagine what it would be like if I never actually discovered this series in the first place. And honestly, I don't particularly care to imagine it. I mean, it's just given me too many good memories over the years, especially recently. Me and my sister, we started to go see all the movies. We went to the symphony when it came through in our area, and we're even going to celebrate with a little Sonic Day, which is hanging out and playing the game. I'd eventually like to get to reviewing every single mainline Sonic game on my channel here, but with the speed that I'm going, that's probably going to take a couple of years. But hey, I would like to dedicate some more time into making these videos, and if you're interested in anything like this, or like the video itself, hey, maybe just why not hit the little subscribe button, join, and kind of see what happens. And for anybody who did watch all the way through, whether you liked it or not, I still appreciate it, and I hope you have a good night.